For your whole life you have heard the same story. Flying cars are just around the corner. Every few years, some company shows off a shiny vehicle hovering above a highway, and the world gets excited. And then nothing happens. You grow up, you sit in traffic, and the dream stays exactly where it was, parked on the side of the road. But while nobody was looking, something changed. Right now, there are real machines that fold their wings away like a bird tucking in, launch straight up from the ground without a runway, and glide across an entire city through open air. A few of them need no pilot at all. You can put a deposit down on some of them from your phone. And one of them, the first American flying car that regular people can actually buy, just knocked down the tallest wall that kept this dream stuck on the ground for 60 years. The price tag is a fraction of what anyone guessed. And the wildest part is that you need zero pilot training to get airborne. About 45 minutes of getting used to the controls, and you are off the ground. If you like videos like this, please take a second to hit the like button, because these take a huge amount of work to put together, and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. What you are about to see is not a concept or a prototype. These machines are heading to customers right now, and the story of how we got here involves 8 different aircraft, each one cracking a different piece of the puzzle. Some look like sports cars, others look like giant drones, and one of them spins its whole body sideways in the air to turn into a biplane. But to understand why one American machine just rewrote the rules, you need to see what the rest of the world built first. The dream that never arrived. The flying car is the oldest broken promise in the history of technology. For 6 decades, every generation heard the same pitch. The future is almost here. Traffic will vanish, and you will soar above the highway instead of crawling along it. And for 6 decades, every generation waited and waited and eventually gave up. The problem was never about building something that could leave the ground. We have had airplanes for more than 100 years. The hard part was building one single machine that handles 2 completely different jobs without failing at both. A car has to be strong and heavy, gripping the road through turns and bumps. An airplane has to be super light and smooth, cutting through the air with as little drag as possible. Those 2 sets of needs fight each other at every step. Build it tough enough for the street, and it becomes too heavy to leave the ground. Build it light enough to fly, and it shakes apart on the road. Engineers tried for years and mostly walked away frustrated. They made planes that could crawl along on the road, but those were bad cars and boring aircraft. They tried hovercraft that skimmed above the ground, but those needed flat land and special permits and a long list of rules. The dream stayed frozen, stuck in the same spot it had been since the 1950s. Then the ground shifted under everyone. Not because of one big invention, but because a bunch of smaller steps piled up over the years and quietly crossed a tipping point. Battery technology took a huge leap forward, packing way more energy into way less weight than anyone thought possible 20 years ago. Electric motors got so small you could put one on each arm of a vehicle instead of using one big heavy engine in the front. Carbon fiber, the same stuff used in race cars and rockets, became cheap enough to build whole aircraft out of. And computers got so fast they could balance a craft in the air by tweaking 16 motors at once, making changes far quicker than any human could. Somewhere in the middle of all that quiet progress, the word impossible stopped applying. The shift happened so slowly that most people missed it. There was no big press event or dramatic show. Instead, one small step stacked on top of another, year after year, until the stack got so tall that the old problems simply stopped being problems. The gap between strong enough for the road and light enough for the air got smaller and smaller until it vanished. The gap between needing a skilled pilot and flying itself closed as computers got faster and sensors got cheaper. The gap between only the military can afford this and a regular person could buy one shrank as materials and building methods got better. This did not happen in one place or in one lab. It happened in pieces, spread across countries and workshops, with different teams each solving a different part of the puzzle. A group in Slovakia built a vehicle that changes from a car to a plane in under 2 minutes and has already done more than 500 flights. A company in China made a pilotless air taxi and got it officially approved to carry passengers. A small team in California built a craft you can legally fly with no license at all, just 45 minutes of practice. And one American company made something so simple and so reachable that it quietly became the first flying car you can actually buy and fly. To see how we got from empty promises to machines heading to real customers, you need to meet the 8 aircraft that got us here. Each one solved a different part of the puzzle, and each one pushed the dream closer to real. The first group started by asking a bold question. If a flying machine can nearly fly itself, why put a human at the controls at all? Cars that fly themselves. Meet the EHang EH216S, a small aircraft shaped like a rounded pod, made from carbon fiber and powered by 16 separate motors, each spinning its own propeller. There is no wheel to turn, no stick to push, no pedals to press. As a rider, you have 0 controls to mess with. You step inside, sit down, pick where you want to go on a touchscreen, and the aircraft does everything else. No dashboard spreads out in front of you. No bunch of gauges needs your attention. Just a seat, a screen, and a wide-open view in every direction. The machine hums to life, rises straight up, and suddenly you are gliding through the air with nothing below you but empty space. A person on the ground talks to the aircraft through a data link, steering it along its path and controlling its speed. You are just along for the ride. The aircraft moves at about 100 kilometers per hour and climbs to heights that would make most first-time riders grip their seats pretty tight. It holds 2 people, and here is the detail that sounds like it belongs in a movie. It became the first aircraft of its kind anywhere in the world to get full government approval as a real passenger-carrying vehicle. Not a test model, not an experiment, a legally approved aircraft cleared to fly people through the sky. It is for sale right now with a price tag of about $332,000. You can order a pilotless air taxi about as easily as you might buy a couch online, have it shipped to you, and start using it. But owning one and using one every day are 2 very different things. The EH216S works best as part of a bigger system, where trained people on the ground track every flight and guide each aircraft from one spot to the next. It was never meant for you to keep in your garage and drive to work. It was built for a future where calling a sky taxi is as normal as calling a ride on your phone, and that future is still forming, one landing spot at a time, one rule at a time. And while all of this is amazing, these service-based aircraft do not even try to solve the problem of personal ownership. They are built for riding, not for owning and flying yourself. That gap is exactly what the next group of machines set out to fill. That is the gap the next company went after. Joby Aviation, based in California, looked at self-flying aircraft and asked a different question. Instead of selling you an aircraft, why not build a whole skyride network around one? The idea is simple and pretty stunning. You never own the vehicle, you just call one, exactly like you tap your phone for a car today. A sleek electric aircraft rises off a rooftop pad, tilts its rotors forward, and flies across an entire city almost silently. What would normally be a painful hour stuck in traffic turns into a calm 7-minute flight above the rooftops. You land, step out, and the aircraft moves on to grab the next rider. This is not a sketch or a flashy video. Over the course of a single year, the Joby fleet did more than 850 flights and piled up over 50,000 meters of flight time. The company has raised over $800 million, with an extra $500 million from a major car maker that clearly sees where things are heading. They have run real flights between cities and operated regular service at a big international expo. The idea of leaving traffic behind has never been more real. But both of these machines share one key thing. They are built for a service, not for personal ownership. You ride in them, but you do not fly them yourself. The machines coming up next take a totally different path, building for one person who wants to take the controls alone. Your own personal aircraft. The Pivotal Helix looks like nothing you would call a car. It looks more like a tiny jet fighter that you strap into behind your house. It carries one person, uses fixed rotors, and has two sets of wings stacked one behind the other. The whole thing runs on battery power, moving at about 100 kilometers per hour, with enough charge to cover about 32 kilometers before you need to plug in. But the detail that makes people stop and stare is this. Because the aircraft is so incredibly light, the government puts it in a special ultralight group, which opens a door that almost no other flying machine on Earth can match. You can legally fly it for fun, without a pilot's license of any kind, no required hours with a teacher, no written test, no months of costly lessons. You buy it, you get used to how it feels, and you go up. And this is not some far-off goal on a timeline. The first batch of units reached paying customers in June of 2024, making the Helix one of the earliest real production personal aircraft in the world that you can take home and fly. The company behind it spent 12 years of steady, quiet work on the project, and the current version is the fourth generation of the design. It has gotten so good that the United States Air Force took several units to study and test. Let that sink in for a moment. The same aircraft you could fly from your backyard with no license at all is something the military thinks is worth studying. That alone tells you how far the technology has come. Still, as impressive as the Helix is, it is not the machine that brings the whole dream home. That one is still a few steps away, and it takes the idea of simplicity even further than anything we have seen so far. The Jetson 1 pushes the idea to an even more basic extreme. It drops any effort to look like a car and instead takes the shape of a giant racing drone, just big enough for a person to climb into. The whole craft weighs only 86 kilograms without a rider, made possible by a frame built from carbon fiber and Kevlar, the same tough material found in bulletproof vests. You sit in the middle, grab a pair of joysticks that feel like a game controller, and rise straight up off the grass. The top speed is held at about 102 kilometers per hour on purpose for safety, because when you are sitting in something this small and this light, being careful matters more than going fast. The controls are simple enough that most people get the basics in minutes, not hours. The feeling is hard to compare to anything else. There is no closed cabin around you, no glass windshield, no roof over your head. You are sitting in a frame that weighs less than a typical adult, floating above the ground with propellers spinning just a few feet away. It feels closer to riding a motorcycle through the sky than sitting in an aircraft, and that was the whole point. The Jetson 1 was never meant to replace your car or your small airplane. It was meant to create something brand new, something between a consumer drone and a real aircraft, something one person can own, fly, and enjoy without years of prep. Demand for the Jetson 1 has been huge. Every production slot has been claimed through 2028, with most orders coming from buyers who cannot wait to be among the first to own one. But this is not just a toy for people with lots of money. During a recent test, the Jetson 1 was tried out for mountain rescue work, opening the door to a use where a small, quick machine could reach someone stuck on a rocky ledge where a regular helicopter would be too big or too risky to go. A vehicle you steer with what is basically a game controller could someday pull someone to safety in spots no other aircraft can reach. What links both of these machines is their focus on personal, light, license-free flight. But neither one is meant to travel on roads. They are pure aircraft. You cannot drive to the store in them or fit them into a normal parking space. The creations coming up next throw out that limit entirely. They want to do what no machine on this list has done so far: roll down the highway like a normal car and take to the sky like a real plane, all from the same machine. The machines that drive and fly. The Klein Vision Air Car is the machine that hushed the doubters who said a real flying car could never work. At a quick glance, you would mistake it for a sleek two-seat sports car parked outside a nice hotel. Then, in less than 120 seconds, the whole vehicle changes shape. What was a car stretches out, a tailpiece slides from the back, and wings swing out from both sides until you are looking at a complete airplane where a car used to be. On the road, it hits about 200 kilometers per hour, faster than most sports cars you see every day. In the air, it covers up to 1,000 kilometers in a single flight, pushed by a strong 280 horsepower engine. The detail that really floored the engineers during testing was how smoothly the machine left the ground and came back down. So smoothly that the pilot barely had to touch the controls. It has done more than 500 takeoffs and landings, proving this is not a stunt. It is a working vehicle that switches between two modes in about the time it takes to make a pot of coffee. That change reshapes how you think about distance. A city that was a 3-hour drive suddenly becomes a 1-hour flight. A weekend trip across the country becomes something you could do on a Saturday morning, flying past the traffic below instead of joining it. The air car makes the old line between driving and flying feel silly, like they were always meant to be two settings on the same dial. The Aleph Model A attacks the same goal from a totally different angle. The idea was born when a group of engineers watched a famous movie from the 1980s about a car that travels through time and walked away determined to build something real. The Model A gives no outward sign of being an aircraft. It looks like a normal, if slightly odd, small car parked in your driveway, and that was on purpose. Hidden under its mesh-covered carbon fiber shell are 8 separate rotors. When you are ready to fly, the vehicle rises off your parking spot. Then comes the part that seems to break the rules of physics. The whole car tilts 90 degrees onto its side in the air, turning itself into a small biplane, with the car body itself acting as the wing. It became the first drivable machine of its kind to get official government permission to fly. The company is sitting on 3,500 pre-orders worth about $1 billion and has gone so far as to call it the best-selling aircraft in history before most buyers have even gotten theirs. The first hand-built units are reaching customers right now, but the Model A comes with a catch that rarely gets mentioned. On the street, it barely moves, and it fits just one small adult, nothing more. The Asuka A5 was built to throw out every one of those compromises. Picture a vehicle about the size of a normal family SUV that fits in your garage, drives down the highway at a real 70 miles per hour, and then, when you press one button, unfolds its wings and rotors in about 30 seconds until it is ready to go straight up. Once in the air, it flies at 150 miles per trip. When the battery gets low, you do not hunt for a special charging station. You pull into a regular gas station and fill up from the same pump you use for your car. And it fits 4 people in real comfort, not one. More than 60 buyers have put down deposits, each paying $789,000. That is a huge sum, and it buys a really fancy path into the sky. All 3 of these vehicles are amazing, but they share a common wall. They are pricey, they need certification, or they make you clear hurdles just to leave the ground. What comes next asks for almost none of that. It is built in America, it is reaching customers right now, and it knocked down the last wall standing between you and open sky. The American flying car that changed everything. Every machine we have looked at so far asks something tough from you. The Klein Vision Air Car needs you to train as a real pilot. The EHang EH216S needs you to wait for a sky taxi system that is not fully built. The Joby needs you to call a ride instead of owning one. The Oscar A5 needs you to spend close to $800,000. The Aleph Model A needs you to accept a single seat and a slow road speed. Each one is impressive, but each one puts a wall between you and the air. The Rise Recon tears down almost every one of those walls. It is a bare-bones, one-person aircraft that looks like a giant drone with a seat bolted to the middle. It rides on 6 propellers powered by 6 separate motors, meaning if one motor stops, the other 5 still hold you up. That backup is not just a nice extra. In a craft this light, losing a motor could be really bad, so the builders packed in 6 to make sure you always have a spare, and then a spare for the spare. The whole thing weighs less than most motorcycles and floats along at about 60 miles per hour. The frame is simple, the layout is basic, and the whole machine feels more like a gadget than a normal aircraft. There is no closed cockpit, no sealed cabin, no air conditioning. You sit open to the air, wind in your face, watching the ground shrink below your feet. But the biggest surprise is not in the hardware. It is in the rules. The Rise Recon fits into a special ultralight group, which means no pilot's license and no long training. About 45 minutes of getting used to the controls is all it takes for someone with no flying background to lift off the grass and start flying. Think about what that means. Every other aircraft on this list, whether it is the self-flying pod or the transforming sports car, needs either a licensed pilot or a certified operator somewhere in the chain. The Rise Recon asks for 45 minutes and a flat patch of ground. It can even land on water and float, which means you do not need a runway, a helipad, or a special launch zone. A pond, an open field, a quiet stretch of shore, any of those will work just fine. The first units are going out at about $150,000. That is not cheap in the way a bike is cheap, but next to the Oscar A5 at $789,000, it is a tiny piece of the price. And compared to the time and money it takes to earn a normal pilot's license, which can drag on for months and cost tens of thousands of dollars, the Rise Recon is almost effortless. This is the machine that turns the old promise into a real thing. For 60 years, the flying car was always 20 years away, always just over the hill, always so close but never quite here. The Rise Recon is not almost here. It is here. It exists, it is going to customers, and you can get off the ground in it with less prep than it takes to get a driver's license. The flying car from America finally hit the market, and it did not show up as a shape-shifting coupe or a billion-dollar sky taxi network. It showed up as a simple, light, 6-motor craft that asks for almost nothing except 45 minutes of your time and an open patch of sky. The dream was never about the fanciest machine or the fastest one. It was about the most reachable one. And the most reachable one is finally here. If you liked this story and want more like it, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. There are related videos on the screen right now if you want to keep watching. So here is a question for you. If you had $150,000 and 45 minutes of free time, would you fly the Rise Recon, or would you wait for a pilotless taxi to pick you up? Let me know in the comments.